Hello, everybody. It's Kateri.
And Owen, and our very special guest.
Theo.
Theo, welcome to the Soothsayers
Hello.
Tea. We are
I'm
Hello.
excited to be here.
we are going to be discussing divine gender.
Oh goodness.
What does it
Yes, in
mean?
all its nuances and intricacies and ass paineries.
Yes. So, as we know, tarot is very, very, very annoyingly gendered.
Yes.
Mhm.
So I felt that it was important to bring in people that was experienced in this topic to have this conversation because I am this has trash, so I basically don't
I
care.
thought you were gonna say cis het trans, and I was
Nope.
like, how the fuck does that work?
Trash. Just hot. No, no, I'm not that exciting. I'm just complete and utter trash. So
You're not trash.
no, I'm good garbage. I'm the garbage that can be recycled.
No, I
Okay.
think
Sure.
consistently, at least 2 out of 3 of us are very much trash.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
I'm white trash. I literally am. Like where I grew up and where I do be being and what I do be doing is I'm white trash.
I mean, my family, my bio family, legit identifies as rednecks.
So does my uncle, but he's insane.
But we're from backwater Iowa, and my mom worships the Winders and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
My uncle, see, the thing was, my family are all Irish, but my granda emigrated to Canada, like 60 years ago for work, and he lived there for like 20 years, and so both my parents, oh my god, no, my uncle and my mom, who are not my parents, Jesus, were born in Ireland, and then they kind of grew up in Canada a little bit, and so my
Mm-hmm.
uncle is unironically like a backwoods Canadian redneck bitch.
Oh my
So does this
god.
make you
Like
part
he's
Canadian? Are you part Canadian, Owen?
I
The
am
culture.
part culturally Canadian, yes. Um, because like I don't like we like where was it? It was like oh, I don't remember where the names were. They moved around a lot, but the uncle in question is incredibly racist. He's very much pro-Trump weirdo, that kind of QAnon Facebook bitch,
What?
and he is married to an Indonesian woman and lives in Indonesia with his 2 Indonesian children.
See, yeah, I think that's just kind of peak trash right there.
I don't
Yeah, so
understand.
he's not only is he insane, he's a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Um
Well,
That's what I don't understand. Where I'm just sitting here like, so you're pro Trump, but you're married to a person of color, and your children and your family are people of color.
and also you're an immigrant.
Yeah.
oh Lord,
I mean, okay, but we won't even get started on Donald Trump
we
and how
No.
like all of his wives have
we
been
could go
immigrants.
on. With that being
We
said,
don't need to,
Theo, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
I suppose.
Do it.
Um, I'm Theo. My pronouns are well, we'll just use they them for this. And I am from the Heathen Wyrdos
Yay!
podcast.
Woo!
We very much
Very
so
excited.
enjoy the Heathen Weirdos. We occasionally shout them out. Basically, anytime we
Aw.
mention heathenism, we're like, "Go listen to these guys," because we don't know what we're
Yeah,
talking
because we
about.
don't know shit.
We
Yeah.
don't know what we're talking about.
We defer to y'all quite a bit.
I literally say anytime I bring up heathenism, I'm like, I'm not heathen, but according to my friends and what my friends say, and that's
Hmm.
usually indicates all of the wonderful hosts and co-hosts over at Heathen Weirdos, which Theo is a wonderful part of.
Yes.
And if you want
We
to
try.
find that, it's WYRD weird, not WEIRD weird, which is a
Oh
heathen
yes.
thing.
Yes. It's like the web of the weird and fate
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Yes.
It's more complex in heathenry than other religions and stuff.
It can't be
It's
just,
fine.
Mhm.
nothing can be normal with us in general.
No.
With that being said,
No.
gender, divine gender. What the hell does that mean?
What does
Yeah.
it mean? That's a very good question.
Many
What
answers.
is divine gender? I personally separate divine gender from human gender.
Yeah.
I practice a very, I guess, dualistic and gendered practice because
Mhm.
Well, as you will know if you've listened to any of the previous episodes, I am insane about balance. Balance is like my rule. Anything else can go out the window as long as there is some kind of balance there. And for me, a dualistic practice and like the gender binary in quotation marks is a great way to find that balance, and that is sort of how I was raised a little bit, which is quite funny because I myself am non-binary, and so there's a lot of stuff there. There's a lot of stuff there. But that is sort of how I would define divine gender, separate from human gender and divinely balanced.
Sure, sure. When I think, okay, I have a different perspective, which is fine. Like, you do you. Um, so I primarily see gender as a human construct, and I am not saying the gods don't have their own different genders. Like, I'm sure they do in some way that we don't understand necessarily in our, like, from the human perspective. I do think that they interpret their genders and like present to us in a way that we would understand. Just,
Mhm.
because like if they're presenting to us, they clearly want to work with us and they want us to not like, be like, what the fuck is that shit? Um, and so I mean it just makes it easier. Like, I mean that's basically in a nutshell how I feel about it. Also, I think gender is dumb, but
One
I
hundred
respect
percent.
people's gender because it's important. It's
I
Yeah.
fine.
live within the duality and the dichotomy that gender is both amazing and the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm kind of in the center
Mhm.
between both you guys, where I believe that it's very much so a construct. And I don't think the gods are gendered at all. However, I
Mhm.
do believe that there is a strength in a binary in that regard when it comes to divine gender, not human gender. A binary and a human gender is just restrictive. But when it comes to divine
Yes.
gender, I do believe that there is a very strong binary, not a strict binary, but a strong binary strictly due to the duality and the balance portion of things. And then basically, there's things that land in the center, especially when it comes to deities. Not all of them are wholly one or the other, but they do have a tendency to lean one side or the other. Um, so I'm
Mhm.
kind of in the
Unless you're
center
like,
between you guys, where I'm just like, I believe that there is a very strong binary within divine gender. However, I also believe that we also kind of enforce our own human beliefs on gender, on these deities, on these spirits, on these objects itself,
Entities.
entities. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would I would
And
say absolutely, especially when you look at like North. So I am more familiar with Norse deities in
mhm.
general, like as a whole in general. Um, a lot of people characterize Freya as like sexuality and like sexiness, and like there are stories where it's like, oh, she cheated on her husband, and oh, she traded sex for a necklace and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, so first off, like, and it's all put in a very like negative, like
Yeah,
shamey
it's
light.
giving reductionist. It's
Yeah,
giving very simple brain dead take.
exactly. And like it's also definitely putting a human perspective on it,
Mhm.
because it's like, well, okay,
That
like,
hussy.
yeah, right. And it's like who's to, like, why, who's to say the gods think that this is wrong?
I actually, it's
Like,
really funny that you say that because people do that a lot with Namarigna,
oh yeah.
um, because she had sex like once in mythology, or, like it wasn't necessarily once, but like they're very like the one that people will like point at the most is that she has sex with Cuchulainn, and therefore she is a sex goddess, and she is
Ugh.
all feminine and divinity and divine feminine, and I think that is insane because hilariously, despite the fact that the way that Namarigna sort of appears to me
Mhm.
is like more femme presenting and more like womanly,
Sure.
um typically I would still consider like their divine gender to be more masculine, because for me divine gender isn't so much about representation, it's more
Mhm.
about what they would like represent. And so
Yeah.
like I guess masculine or like divine divinity masculinity. Divine masculinity would be like control, discipline, and dominance,
Yeah.
whereas divine femininity,
Feminine.
divine fem.
The-
Yes, thank you. The divine feminine would be more so mercy, compassion, and like, I guess I don't want to say timid, because timid is the
Yeah.
worst possible word to describe this, and
Receptive.
it's not how I feel.
Receptive.
Yes,
Yeah.
receptive and destructive.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
that comes into is that I work a lot with the Greek pantheon. I do have very kind of I have my pantheon gods and all that, but I think like Aphrodite would be a good example that is usually considered very feminine. But when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to the divine side, I would find that the energy that Aphrodite puts off is very masculine. It's very dominant. It's very aggressive. It's very much so like that female sexuality thing that kind of makes men
Yeah.
melt, right? And there's something
Hmm.
very
Power and
yeah, there's a
sexuality.
very
Well.
powerful portion of that, and that's very much so a sex goddess.
Hmm.
And it's funny because when we see a lot in more modern terms, when we see all this like goddess work and this powerful goddess work, I'm like, you know what, that's all pretty masculine. Like divinely, that's all pretty
Yeah.
masculine.
Well.
Yeah.
One thing I'll say, because like I see it, like I see newer practitioners, even some more seasoned practitioners, get really confused by this because like with the masculine and feminine aspects, like I just had a conversation with someone the other day where they were like, but like Hera, like look at Hera, how is she only divine feminine?
Yeah, I
And I had to explain. I was like, no, just because a deity is a woman doesn't mean that they're only divine feminine. They have both. And like it's not like it's like they intermix in a deity.
yeah, and that comes into
In anything, but
when I do apply a gender to an entity, it's usually whatever their most prominent aspect is. So in a case of Aphrodite, where beauty is one of her more prominent aspects, right? Of love and
sure.
beauty, that's going to be more feminine. However, the sexual sides of her, she's also a goddess of war. That's going to be the more masculine sides of her, right?
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
there's I think that overall deities specifically, they're very honestly, their gender's all over the place, and to be
Oh
just
yeah.
I think that it's important to respect people's kind of beliefs when it comes to like especially antiquity and things like that. But on the flip side of the coin, it's just that to be like, nope, this is the divine masculine, this is the divine feminine. Like, really, are you sure? Because I don't think any of the gods really have a very strict binary that way. I think they kind of shift
Mm-hmm.
back and forth,
Hmm.
but they do have very much so a very strong point that kind of points towards one side of the binary that usually they get associated with, which there's nothing wrong with.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd also would love to talk a little bit about the divine androgynon, and sort of like the not the combination of masculine and feminine energy within deity, but more so like this separate entity of like gender that exists outside of masculine and feminine energy. So for me, that would sort of be, I guess, do you know what? I'm going to talk about this in terms of the Kabbalistic tree of life, because
Sure.
I am not a Kabbalist, but I have studied a little bit of Western esotericism and a little bit of Kabbalah, and we did actually have to read sections from the Zohar for my Judaism course, because I'm like, for those who don't know, I'm getting my bachelor right now in religious studies, and
Mm-hmm.
so I've looked into this a little bit, um, and so the left hand side of the like left pillar, or yeah, left pillar would be more masculine, and then on the right pillar would be more feminine. But then there's also middle pillar, or the pillar of mildness, and or center pillar. There's a couple different names, and this is all about balance and unity, and I guess sort of okay, do you know what, the middle pillar is very much the lover's card.
Yes.
It's all about sort of like unity, balance, harmony, all of these sort of like coming togethers in peace, and like find it's balance, and the middle pillar is what I sort of ascribe to achieve in my concept of divine gender,
Mm-hmm.
um because we all know I'm all the way up my own ass about balance, and honestly, I think that's not something that gets talked about a lot. I feel like we very quickly will talk about divine masculine and divine feminine and then sort of move on. Like not we, the three, but we, the occult community.
Yes.
And we don't really embrace it enough. And I think we should. I think we would all become better practitioners if we understood the like androgynous side of divine gender.
No, I think that's a very valid point. Like, I also think, I mean, I personally think people ignore it more because, like, you know, society teaches us a gender binary.
Yeah. And I think that also comes to is like, from what I understand, there's a lot of practices that basically enlightenment is in the center, is finding that center. And it's funny that you do mention the lover's card, because there's a reason why I wanted divine gender to be the lover's card, because it is basically to kind of break out a gender, you have to recognize both sides and where it comes in the middle and where it comes outside that. Basically, to break the rules, you got to know the rules. Right. And
which is actually a great metaphor for tarot as well.
Yeah.
If you're trying to interpret those cards, you need to know that shit before you break that shit.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that there is definitely gods out there, or there's definitely entities out there that do kind of really manifest in that way. That's kind of either in the center or outside. I can't think of anything off the top of my head within my own practice, but I know, I guess Hecate can kind of land in that regard sometimes, but I know Loki is a really popular one that's kind of outside the binary at this point.
I know things about Loki. Yes.
And so if you weren't here at this point, we would defer to we'd be like, hey, so we know that Loki sort of exists outside the gender binary and can sort of flip-flop between the two a lot, and I think you should listen to Heathen Wyrdos about that. We're going to shut up now.
Who would have thought? We have a weirdo right here, so let's go.
I know.
I mean, honestly, like, so not all heathens know a lot about Loki. There's, before the last 5 or so years, there was a huge Nokian movement. That's kind of a play on the phrase Lokian, which is what a lot of people who have Loki as their primary hearth
I thought you were
deity
talking about angel magic shit, and I was like, please, my brain is not there right now.
No, so a Nokian movement, so like, no Loki, Loki's evil and stuff. So one thing you have to keep in mind, like, I do highly recommend, if you're interested, please don't lick my face, Millie.
Millie's the dog. I just want to set the expectation to our listener.
Yeah, yes, I like everyone to be aware.
I forgot we're not on the Heathen Wyrdos, and everyone there knows who Millie is. Millie is my Pomeranian. She is adorable and likes to give kisses.
And our new mascot.
Yeah, that's fine. She likes it. She likes attention. So anyways, there was a huge no Loki movement. Loki's evil. So like, if you are interested in Norse mythology, like it and stuff like that, like, it's super great to dive into it. Do keep in mind that both Snorri and Saxo, writing this down, they were both Christian men. And I've seen conspiracy theories where they're like, they were actually heathens in disguise. No, they were both Christians. And they were writing the lore down in an effort to help convince heathens to peacefully join Christianity when they were basically being forced to. So that lore is changed. It's very Christianized. So, you know, like for instance, a lot of heathens don't believe in like Ragnarok. Like the Anglo-Saxon heathens don't even have it in their lore at all. But so like Loki, the trickster deity and stuff like that, they're like, oh, he's evil, he's Satan, he was punished.
The Christians love a villain. I mean, like, they love a villain.
Yeah. So it's only been in the last 5 years that people are like actually in defense of Loki. Like, you know, Loki, blood brother of Odin, not Thor, Odin, Marvel. But yeah. But like, he's not a bad person. But Loki also definitely, sorry, I'm rambling. But
I'm
anyways,
enjoying the ramble. I'm okay with it.
We're
yeah.
listening very, very intently.
So Loki does a lot of things through the lore, and I'm garbage with names, so I can't remember the actual titles, but like there's stories like in general when Loki is presented, Loki presents as a man. Keeping in mind, I personally think Loki is gender fluid, or at the very least non-binary. And I do feel that it's possible Loki was written more as a man due to the Christianization, because like when you see Loki presenting as another gender or species, or both, it's because Loki was doing something either tricksy or, well, actually no, the two I'm thinking of primarily, Loki was actually helping the other gods out, like when Loki turned into a female horse and had relations with a boy horse
Relations with a boy
that
horse.
she was supposed to be distracting. And that's how Sleipnir was born. Don't get me started on the fact
hilarious.
that Odin uses Sleipnir as a horse and rides Sleipnir into battle. So Odin is basically riding his own nephew into battle. Don't get me started.
Maybe I need to start looking into Norse mythology, because this is starting to sound kind of interesting. There's some plot twists here.
It's fucking weird, dude. Like,
and I think honestly, and this comes into like, this is where when people are just like, oh no, these gods are definitely like boys and girls and they have penises and vaginas. Like, nah, they don't have that, man. Like,
they are Barbie dolls down there.
I'm like,
oh yeah.
Like, I think that,
well, or
right,
change it out
or just swap it out as they see fit. I think that's where, again, where we discussed earlier that we definitely put a human concept of gender onto our deities, and that's where I don't subscribe.
I think we take it way too far with how we gender deities. Like, I think we take it way too far, like way outside the concept of divine gender. We go straight into human gender because obviously we're human, and so we push that on to this different gender binary than the one that we have. Like, because I guess for me, like, obviously, realistically, deities don't necessarily have like a physical human form, and so I don't like their concept of gender, or at least my concept of their concept of gender, is purely about energy and like describing energy, and not so much about actual reproductive organs or like gender identity when it comes to deities.
Yeah, and I find that's interesting that we see it occasionally. People are like, you got to respect gender, like, sorry, the deity's pronouns, and I'm like, I don't think they know what pronouns are.
Yeah, I mean, deities' pronouns. I
You're like, you can call them whatever you feel like that makes you comfortable, but to please
Yeah.
other people's like, I've heard people like, don't call Loki like they, because very obviously, I'm like, why? Who cares about this? Like, or yeah, I don't understand the policing of deity pronouns, because I'm like, they don't have genitals or lack of genitals
or gender or gender identities, and so like I think very much respect people's pronouns and remember that deities aren't people.
Yes. Oh god, my point just flew out the window. Brain, come on, do this.
It's okay. This podcast does that to you. If you listen to any of the episodes, there are at least 2 instances where I am talking and I'm making a point and I'm building up to this point, and then I get there and I'm completely blank. I've completely lost the train
I think
of
what it is that you actually get to your point, but you still have the momentum like a train, and the train keeps going.
Yeah, that's it sometimes as well. I will 100, like, I will say my point. I'll be building up to something. I will say what I've been building up to, but I won't
realize,
say it as if I won't realize. I'll just get too excited and just keep talking, and then I just end up talking shit.
Sorry, I realized there were things I was gonna say with Loki. To cap that off, a lot of heathens don't worship Loki, which is fine. Like, a lot, like, that's valid. I personally don't worship Odin. I've chosen not to for various personal reasons.
Traitor.
Right? Or Thor, which is fine. I'm not like I hate them. I just I'm not feeling
But what
it,
about
dude.
sexy Chris Hemsworth? I don't understand.
No,
I worship that Thor.
That's valid. That's totally valid. Oh God. Anyways, so sorry. So I do. Loki is in my hearth cult. I would consider myself a Lokian if I didn't have Kiernanos.
Cults.
Yeah. And have you guys covered Hearth Cult on here before?
A little bit,
We
yes, we
have.
touched on it.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
good. Sorry. Just
No,
so I'm
it's
not
okay.
like sitting here like I'm in a cult. I'm not in a cult.
We literally discussed it during
it's
cults.
just-
Yeah,
That's
we
good.
we had the cult episode that we had to record 3 times. We covered it so many different ways, and then I don't know what we ended up with. We may not have actually mentioned it in the final episode,
No,
but I'm pretty
we
sure
did. We mentioned it in passing. We're like, oh yeah, we discussed this 8 times. You don't know we discussed it 8 times, but yeah, her cult is a thing, and you're not actually in a cult.
Yeah.
It's a hearth cult. I'll just recap real quick.
Yes.
Yeah,
A
I
hearth
think that
cult
would be a good
is
idea.
basically I feel like I've seen it more with Norse heathens, but like I'm more
Same.
exposed to that community than others. So a hearth cult is basically a set of deities that someone works with personally.
Yeah.
Like in
Yeah,
my
I
hearth
mean
cult,
that's the long and short of it. To be honest, it's not a very
yeah,
complicated
that's
concept.
it. Like, yeah, and like everyone's hearth cult's gonna be a little different. Like, but Loki is definitely in my hearth cult, and like Loki is not just a trickster deity. Like, you know, I'm not saying Loki doesn't enjoy some good chaos. They do. In my UPG. And like I guess it's technically SPG at that point. Because a
Yeah,
lot of Lokians feel
it's
the same.
commonly shared.
Yeah. But also like Loki is a deity of change and like pushing yourself to explore new things basically. Which is it's fun. But in my UPG, we were talking about like don't get way too uppity with like gendering deities and stuff. And like I don't, but like with Loki, I feel like Loki really enjoys it when you like, you know, switch through like they, them, she, her, he, him for them.
Yeah, and that makes complete sense to me.
Yeah.
Again, I occasionally even refer to Hecate as them, right? And it's just that it's and that's I don't even have any rhyme or reason for it. It just makes sense to me. And if somebody were to like honestly, somebody can go on the Discord and start referring to Hecate as he, him, and I'd be like, cool. Like it wouldn't make any sense. Like it wouldn't make any sense for me to argue any of that.
I actually, it's very funny that you bring this up because I now have 2 things that I would like to say. I don't know shit fuck about Loki. I really don't. But I've always sort of seen Loki as the tower card from Tarot. I like that. That's the extent of my knowledge of Loki. I don't know if that's correct, but that is how I will visualize them. And the other thing that I was gonna say, because this just popped into my head, there's a very popular book out there. It's not an episode of the Suit Series T if I'm not shitting on popular books, but there's a very popular book about there about sort of queer magic and sort of like LGBT practices, I guess. I am not a huge fan of this book, and there's a couple of reasons, but one of the main reasons that I see is that this person lists Namarigna as a non-binary deity or as a like an LGBT deity because they use they them pronouns. And the thing is with that, the reason that a lot of Irish practitioners and a lot of people who have studied Irish mythology will refer to Namarigna as they them is because there's like 7 of them. Because the way like Irish deities, they don't really have names so much as they have titles. And Namarigna, like there's examples where it's more like obvious than others. Like Brigid is a name, but it's also a title. But like you would use it in a name and you would use it in a singular sense because there's only one Brigid in quotation marks, which is also wrong. But for the point of this argument, there is one Brigid. And Namarigna is a title and it basically means like the Great Queen, or less commonly like the Phantom Queen or the Dark Queen. And so when you say It's also, by the way, why Lady Morrigan is the most dumb shit I've ever heard in my life, because you're just saying Lady Great Queen or Lady Phantom Queen, and I think that is insanely stupid. And when I correct people on this, they make TikTok videos belittling me and being awful. And so if you call someone Lady Morrigan, don't speak to me. However, circling back to the point, there's no, like, Navarigna isn't necessarily an LGBTQ plus deity because it's multiple people. That is where the they them comes from. It's a group.
And
it's a collection.
And again, I think that comes into everybody's just kind of personal experience with gender, because my experience with deity gender is very much so, are they passive or are they active, right? This is going to be actually going to be a hot fucking take, and I don't think there's going to be any Christians listening, but I'm going to say it. Jesus Christ, divine feminine.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That is actually really funny that you bring that up. Has anyone here heard of side wound theology?
No.
Oh my god!
I think.
In for
wait,
a treat.
Is that because like the stabbing of like basically
yes,
is his vagina?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, it is. So there is this sort of heretical Christian theory that Jesus is trans, and or I guess that's a very simple, like, that's a very large simplification, but basically that Jesus embodies the divine feminine and the divine masculine, in that the stab wound in his, like, in his side, the side wound, is representative of a vagina, and so Jesus is divine, divine feminine in that way. And I think that's hilarious. I love heretical Christianity.
So fun.
And I encourage all of you to Google side wound theology after this podcast listening, if you want to go down the deepest and darkest, most insane rabbit hole you've ever seen in your life.
That's amazing. And again, that comes into, haven't read the book that you're talking about, but I think that also comes into is like, I don't think necessarily you don't have to queer your deities because they're already queer.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I don't think that there necessarily needs to be queer deities, because all deities are outside the concept of human gender anyway, and that is pretty queer if you ask me.
One Norse deity that a lot of people see as like definitely a man that also like definitely is a queer, Odin.
Is it Odin?
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Well, like so the story is that only women were allowed to learn and practice Seithr, which is a traditional like magical of sorts praxis that we don't have a lot of information about.
But that is very cool from what I've seen in it. Like, I've actually, like, once again, no knowledge of Norse anything, but I have looked into Seithr because of this, because it's so cool to me.
If you ever want to get a thorough lesson on what is available with Seithr, and also, like, I mean, there's some UPG in it, but like a really reconstructionist take on Seithr that has a very little UPG, just talk to Sif.
Yeah, I read Sif's. I've been looking at what Sif's been saying about it. That's what started my, like, interest in it.
If you go to our Discord, Sif has a Seithr soapbox.
Yeah, I read through the Seithr soapbox.
It's fantastic.
You should just go there and ping Sif and be like, tell me more.
It is so fantastic.
Then get popcorn and tea.
Yes.
But anyways, so traditionally, even for the gods, the story goes that only women were allowed to learn Seithr. So Odin was like, Odin, who, you know, always wants to learn and is a god of wisdom, was like, I need to know that. And they were like, but you got a dick, bro. They didn't actually say that.
No, it's canon.
And Odin was like, okay. And so Odin was like, fine, and became a woman. And was like, teach me Seithr. And Freya was like, all right. Come on.
Sure. Yeah. Good enough for me.
Yeah. I mean, we have speculated amongst the weirdos. I don't think we've actually recorded any, but like we think that like so Valhalla is not Norse Norse heaven. It's not. Like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Valhalla.
But I don't understand. That's what all the media and the entire world has told me.
If you want to go to an afterlife where you're constantly butchering people and then feasting and being butchered and stuff, like, go for it, bro. That sounds awful to me.
I
To
feel
get
like How to Train Your Dragon accurately depicted Valhalla.
Yeah. So you have to die in battle to go to Valhalla.
It's kind of like
But
purgatory, basically, eh?
not necessarily. I don't know. I think it's a very Christianized concept. Like, I personally, okay, this is my personal thoughts.
Hot
Not
take.
all Norse heathens think this, but I think in the afterlife you can go between different halls.
Oh
Because, like,
my
there's so many
gosh.
different halls for, like, the dead. Like, there's Helheim, which is like the general afterlife, which is not hell. It is a nice sunny place where you spend time with your family. Okay. Anyways, but Freya also has her own hall. One thing a lot of people don't know is if you die in battle, Freya gets first pick.
Yes, I did know that one.
That one I did know. I don't know why. Probably from spending so much time around the Heathen Wyrdos.
Probably. But Freya gets first pick. So one shirt I really want is it's just a black shirt, and it's from an Etsy store, which it's the 20th now. We can shop on Etsy.
Yay.
But it's a black shirt that says Valhalla, the Hall of Freya's Rejects.
It's true.
Anyways, sorry. But yeah, so we have speculated amongst ourselves that might have been payment for teaching Odin Sather.
Oh,
that
is
that's why I know that. That's why that information is there.
Complete speculation.
I mean, it makes sense.
But, you know, like, Freya's fucking busy. She's got shit to do. Like, she doesn't have time to just sit down with Odin and teach him an entire magical praxis. Like, not for free.
Yeah. Especially, I'm like, she's not stupid. She knows. She's just like, all right, I guess Odin's a chick now. Like, it's not that she was tricked into it.
She's like, I guess you're a chick now. You can learn.
It was very much so malicious. Yeah, it was malicious compliance.
I love a good malicious compliance story. Anyways, yeah. That's the story.
Yeah, I mean, like, it all makes
sense. I enjoyed your story. Yeah. I think. Yeah, I think the thing is, I feel like the whole concept of divine gender and human gender being the same thing came about with Christianity. And yeah, I mean, Christianity, but like pre-Christianity. So like microcosm, macrocosm, we are made in the Lord's image, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think that, because when I say microcosm and macrocosm, I'm very much talking about, once again, energy. Not actual, I don't genuinely believe that the macrocosm is a version of me sitting up in the clouds.
I think it is, but...
I mean, I think that if anyone was God, it would be me, the microcosm, right now, in this situation. I am God, and you should all worship me and join my cult. But, well, suffer, then.
I will.
I feel... so for me, because before I was studying religious studies, I was studying chemistry, and when I finish religious studies, I will be going back into biopharmaceutical science, and so I am very much a scientific person, and my concept of sort of like spirituality and my own paradigm that I work within is that the physical world is explained by science. My body and how my body works is explained by science, but there's spiritual aspects to every part of the physical world. I believe that I guess I'm sort of animistic in that sense. I believe that every physicality has a binary with a spiritual part of itself. Like, I believe that, I guess, human beings would have, like, for lack of a better word, souls. I'm going to use the word soul because it's commonly understood, even though I don't technically subscribe to the Christian concept of souls and souldom. But, so for me, oh no, I'm about to sneeze.
Good job.
Okay, hold on. Oh my god. So, I believe very strongly that okay, because the thing is, I see this a lot with science versus religion, and I believe wholeheartedly that science and religion are two halves of the same coin. Um, I think that science definitely explains the physical things and that religion explains the metaphysical things. I don't think that they need to be fighting each other. I don't think that one takes precedent over the other. I just think that they can exist side by side. And the way that this works for me with gender is that the microcosm in the situation, because the concept of the microcosm and macrocosm is entirely spiritual. It's not a scientific thing where, like, somewhere between Earth and space, there is a human being or a god that is a human being or looks like a human being whose image we were made in. It's very much sort of, we were given the divine, like within ourselves, the divine feminine, the divine masculine, and the divine androgyne, and that is the microcosm to the larger macrocosm. Um, and so because we are like, all humans are open, like have the capabilities to be either receptive or destructive or harmonious, and that is sort of what I believe in terms of that. I don't think that the microcosm and macrocosm theory is necessarily we like a literal physical trait thing. I don't think it's an actual this is what we look like thing. I think the reason that in mythology all of our gods look like humans is because we wrote mythology as humans. And so when they come to us or when we describe them, we ascribe to them human characteristics. I just used the word describe and ascribe next to each other, and I'm so sorry for that. Um but like that's sort of how that works for me. That's why the gods have these human characteristics. I don't think that they actually are human or experience any human experiences. It's just that this is how we perceive them.
That's a really long way to say that God doesn't have a dick.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is a very, very long way of saying that God doesn't have a dick.
Just like, he made us in his own image. What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
Exactly.
Okay.
He made us in his own image, and that image is energetic.
His image is just a hairless ape.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm just gonna grab onto that energetic thing. If God made us energetic, God failed a lot of people.
Yeah.
Listen, God failed me. I have not left my bed today, and it is 4 in the afternoon.
Fair. Fair.
But I think it's important to kind of discuss as well, like how this can become an issue, especially when it comes to, I'm seeing with the notes here, gender dynamics and conformity is an
Oh, yeah.
issue in a lot of communities.
For example,
Oh.
Dianic Wicca Zuzana Budapest.
Grown.
What the fuck is that?
No one should put their pussy on the earth.
Oh my god. No, not Lisa fucking Lister. Not this bitch.
It's dirty.
That's
At
how,
least
That
wear
is how
some
you get yourself
underwear.
is an infection.
that sounds like a yeast infection. That's how you get an itchy pussy.
Or
Yeah.
like sand. Or
Oh my
like,
god.
okay. No, I'm
Listen.
sad.
Say what you want, because me and fucking Kateri certainly do. I think that is insane. Like, Dianic Wicca exists it exists, that's for sure. It certainly exists.
I think it's some kind of divine punishment.
Yeah. I mean, listen, yeah. Because the thing is, okay, there is two I guess sort of sects of Dianic Wicca,
Okay.
where one is fine and focuses just very heavily on divine feminine and Dianic worship,
Sure.
and the other focuses on turfdom and being an insane person.
Yes. I mean, I am okay. Like, I'm more than okay with someone choosing to only worship quote unquote female deities.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, that's valid.
Yeah,
I get that.
that's me.
I mean, yeah, it's only been in the last couple of years that I've been even remotely okay working with male deities. And, like, I've got Loki, who,
Male in quotation marks.
Yes.
yeah, I was gonna say, question that.
Yeah.
And, like, Karanunos, who, like, one of my first experiences with, like, I wouldn't talk to him because male deity. And so he went and smacked some tits on and was like, is this better? And I was like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I can do this now. Yeah, I'm ready.
And
That is
like
very
the
relatable.
only other male deity I have is Andrimnir, which is the Norse deity of cooking. Basically, there's like
Oh,
one sentence in
beautiful.
the lore for him,
Nice.
but like he's I cook a lot. I love cooking.
Me too.
But
High
like
five.
I
that
also
is the
love
only
cooking.
like strict
Look at us go.
male deity I work with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If we're going with that, like I don't think you've already heard my opinions. Millie?
I think what's really kind of important too is just that I think that everybody should absolutely celebrate their gender,
Oh
right?
yeah, go for
Like,
it.
I think everybody should
Yeah.
do that. But once it gets to the point of exclusion, is where it's bad scene. And
Well,
bad.
yeah. I was like, it's not even just excluding gender. Like, it's more.
It's
So much
more.
more.
Yeah.
But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, and that's, I think we see that a lot, especially in like goddess movements as such, right? Which there's nothing, and it's funny because usually you'd think that as a very like patriarchal thing, that level of exclusion. But we do see it a lot in a lot of like, when I say goddess worship, you see this with my fingers doing quotation marks because, especially with a lot of pagan circles that I've rubbed elbows with, it's always just like, oh, I worship the goddess. And it's like, well, which one? All of them. I'm like, oh god, right? I'm just like, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but it becomes less about actual a practice and more girl power, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with celebrating your gender. I celebrate my concept of gender, which is, again, I'm
Sure.
cis het, but I don't really give a shit, right?
No one should be ashamed for being cis het.
Right. I'm so ashamed. No, I'm joking. But it's just, it
Like,
comes into is that I don't care enough about that to actually care. Does that make sense? Like that
no, that makes sense.
that I don't feel like I have to worship like femininity like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like I'm very comfortable with that I don't necessarily have to go out of my way to make it bigger than what it is. It's just
Mm-hmm.
what I am and who I am. I respect my goddesses. I respect my gods. I respect masculine and feminine. I respect anything inside and outside that. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily feel that it is necessary to have anything in general to be superior to the other.
So my biggest issue with like the Dianic Wicca, um, the like really problematic one is like they center a lot on women having to have uteruses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not only does that exclude a lot of like possibly like intersex or trans women, um AFAB women who have medical
Yep.
issues, like for the love of God, like I could not imagine like being an AFAB woman who fully believed in that stuff and being told that I needed to have a hysterectomy.
Yeah.
Like the amount of
Whoa.
turmoil, because like you're losing your entire praxis then.
Mm-hmm.
Um and
I
like
actually.
they're not going to accept you after that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
100%.
so yeah, it's just like
It's just it's so flawed.
well
Theologically, it
and
is so flawed.
well, and that's the thing is like, you know, like people have to get hysterectomies for a lot of
Yeah.
reasons.
Yeah.
And so
I
like
know a lot of people actually who've had hysterectomy. Oh my god.
Words.
I am not capable of speaking. I know a lot of people who've had hysterectomies, and I'm thinking now, like, because, okay, okay, wait, no, this is so off topic, but it's not off topic, it's just hilarious. I seen this Facebook post. I can't remember if somebody sent it to me or if it was circulating just like on meme Twitter, but it was about this woman who was part of this like in-person coven, and there was a trans woman there, who like joined the coven, and everyone else was fine with it, but this one lady was just like, whenever they come too close to me around the fire in the circle, I spread my legs and start caressing my womb so that because their energy affects me so much. They're so like,
What
and it's
the
so like overt.
fuck?
Yeah, like those are the exact words, caressing my womb.
Okay, so
And it's just,
first off, you can't physically do that unless
yeah,
you're cutting yourself open.
literally. Well, look, because that was the
First
thing.
off,
That was, it's like, okay, so you're spreading so this is what you're saying to me right now. You're spreading your legs and caressing your womb. Have you like reached up? Like, what is happening
Oh, we know what they're
here?
saying, but what the
Yeah.
fuck, man?
so
Yeah.
basically, whenever this person comes towards you, you openly masturbate in public to
Oh my
get them to
god.
leave you alone, which is valid because I would also leave you the fuck alone. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, like,
Like,
oh my
who's okay with you doing this?
god.
Why have you not been kicked out of this coven yet? You're a fucking bitch.
Yeah.
Like, who's also like people get put on sex offender registries for shit like that. Like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah. I don't
Oh,
know, man.
that's
It's
sexual harassment.
No,
surely.
it's like the divine feminine is like, the best, and this is okay because I'm just showing my divine feminine.
Oh god. No, but so
Uh,
I wanted our viewers, our listeners, whatever, to understand the extent of this like insanity
ugh.
when it comes to the exclusion of trans women. Like it is so, like it's not even like there's no logic to it. It's just completely like insane at that point. Like
Okay.
if you feel the need whenever you stand too close to a trans woman to like assert your dominance by caressing your womb, you
This
need to go to a therapist.
this is what happens when you have religious spaces with no politics rules.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
You get bigots like this in a space that sexually harass
Yep.
trans people and people they don't approve of. Well, not just sexually harass, like this person is obviously sexually harassing them.
Yep.
But like harass and do harm to like trans people and other people they just don't agree with.
Yeah.
Like that's disgusting.
Now, if I'm going to
Yeah.
reel it in just a tiny little bit, I think it's also important that if there is a practice that is specifically, in this case, sexed or gendered, I don't want anybody to feel like they can't do it just because they don't have the quote unquote right parts. I'm a very, very big component in womb magic myself, but I do not think you
Sure.
have to be assigned female at birth to be able to do womb magic in any way, shape, or form.
Or
Agreed.
have a womb, like an actual physical
Yeah,
womb. Because I think we've talked about this on this podcast before. We talked about astral
astral wombs.
wombs.
And the thing is that
Yeah.
I don't think anything should be gate kept from anybody like that. Like the
No.
thing is that when we talk about wound magic, we usually do use these very extreme examples of bigotry and how this can be very dangerous. But I don't want anybody to think that they cannot do these things because they don't want to
No.
be associated with these type of people. I think that if you, no matter what your gender identity is, if you want to use like phallic magic or womb magic, you should just be able to do it no matter what.
I think
Agreed.
if we're being 100% honest, dick magic. Let's call it what it is.
Dick magic.
Because that is a funny fucking thing to say. I like that is just funny to say out
It
loud.
is funny. But what I'm getting at is that just if something is based off sexual organs, no matter what your gender identity is, you shouldn't necessarily cut yourself off from that. Do what you want to do. Do as you will.
So one thing, okay, this is kind of a tangent, and I will not go way too far into this. So I write smut,
Woo! Nice.
and I write
Beautiful.
trans and whatever inclusive smut,
Mhm.
and I can fully agree with what you just said because when I'm writing these characters, I describe their parts as they would like them described. Like a clitoris can be considered a penis, or a dick can be considered a clitoris. Like, I would not say, oh, he caressed her dick, unless the character was okay with it being described as
Yeah.
such. But it's just like, let's not be assholes about this, okay?
And on the flip side of the coin,
Like,
not everybody needs to know the details of your practice that intimately.
correct.
So hold on a second. I don't want to jump over the metaphor that you just created in my mind, where we went from talking about dicks and clitorises, and then Kateri said flip side of the coin and said asshole. I think that has there was so much potential for a hilarious joke there that no one made.
It just made it.
We are professionals. But I don't know, and I guess like my opinion on it, like I'm agreeing with Kateri, and like also I rate people that way because it's like, life is short. Finding happiness is hard enough. Why do you need to be an asshole?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, just let people do what they do. Is it hurting you? No, it's not. Don't you dare. If you are that involved in other people's lives, and other people's lives are that, like, have that much of an impact on your well-being and happiness, like, you
get
should
a mental health consult.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we can kind of finish off this episode with kind of a recap of what our own experiences. Like, what's our experience with gender, whether it be in this physical realm or metaphysical?
Okay, I'll go first. Okay. So for me, I tend to shy away quite a lot from I guess sort of masculine divinity, or like divine masculine energy. I work exclusively with sort of divine feminine, which is really funny because all you hear me do is talk about balance, and I'm unbalanced in this. Oh my god, I've got hiccups. Anyway, I'm unbalanced in this way. Like, I don't know. Okay, so my family have sort of, I guess, a male deity. I can't speak. A typically masculine deity and a typical feminine deity that we all sort of would worship together. Because we believe that they will help us sort of find that balance in between and sort of, I guess, become enlightened. That's not the word that we would use, but I guess that's the closest comparison. Through working with these people and these deities. But the thing is, yeah, I don't work with the masculine aspect of it, like, at all. And it's a mild point of contention between me and my grandmother. Because I have outright refused in the past. I'm slowly coming. Okay, because the thing is, we do a lot of death and spirit work, and so a lot of the people in my immediate family are literally like hospice workers and like care workers, and or old people, and there's a lot of encounters and brushes with death as part of our traditions and part of our like general life, and so I'm shying away from that as well, and that, like, the male deity would be very much reign in that sort of aspect, the death aspect, whereas the and I have had some experiences with, I guess, death work in the past that have fried my brain and scared the shit out of me and left me for 3 days like bedridden, because of these sort of experiences and these rituals and whatever. And I very much don't want, I'm not personally ready for that right now, and so I am going to continue to work with the divine feminine for the time being, but I will keep you all updated.
I would, if you were ever comfortable with it, I would love to talk to you about your familial practice. Like,
yeah,
as someone who was raised Lutheran Missouri Synod, which is like one of the most conservative branches of Lutheran and stuff, like the highest position a quote unquote woman can hold is the altar guild, which is cleaning the church.
Gross.
Wow.
Yeah. So like, as someone who was raised in such a conservative household and like family and Christian family, like I would love to talk to you about that. That sounds
It is
amazing.
actually, I would love to talk to you about that because oppositionally, the women in my family tend to sort of lead rituals and lead prayer and are usually like the source of power, I guess, in quotation
Mm-hmm.
marks. Like it's very much my grandmother, my aunt, my mother, and less so my like uncle or my father. Well, I guess not really my father because that's a different side of the family, but like my uncles and my aunt's husband, that isn't really like, they're just sort of background noise. I will share a little bit actually about like how our ritual would work in that sense, in that the the men of the family tend to very much, they don't sit out the ritual, but the part that they play within ritual and within these practices is background noise.
Okay.
And that they will literally play instruments and they will play music and they will raise the energy, and then the women will do the thing with the energy, where like, and it's sort of like that, like the women can control it but the men sort of raise it, if that makes sense.
Oh, that
um
makes sense.
yeah, I am very lucky to have a very sort of accepting family and
Mm-hmm.
also be the only child of my mother and the only child of my like generation. Like my auntie doesn't have any children or anything like that.
Okay.
um and so my grandmother has sort of been treating me a little bit like both, and she's been teaching me both. And
Mm-hmm.
that is because otherwise it will die because there are no like female
Yeah.
children. And so it's sort of a preservation act. But it's also, she's also quite accepting ish of my own gender and my lack thereof in certain aspects.
Sure.
And so she's just kind of like, she recognizes me spiritually differently, like as outside the concept of like the male role and the female role within our practice. And I
It's
very deeply appreciate that,
beautiful.
because I feel
Mm-hmm.
like for an 80-year-old woman, that's pretty open-minded, if you ask
Okay.
me.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
um I'm also her only grandchild, and well, because obviously my uncle is insane, and so we like my other uncle, so we don't really include him in shit. He also lives on the other side of the world, um, so he doesn't really get. He also cannot play an instrument for shit. He is
He's
awful
just
musician.
useless then.
Yeah, he's a dud.
Yes.
He's a spiritual dud. Um,
That
and
tracks.
so yeah, so there was a point I was going somewhere with this.
You
Anyway,
wanted to talk to me about stuff.
yeah, I'll talk to you about this.
It'll be fine. Okay.
Yeah,
I look forward to it.
yeah.
Um God, gender. It's hard.
It is.
I
What are your experiences with it?
well that's where I'm going. I'm trying to figure out where to start.
Oh. Sorry.
So like I have always felt okay, so I'm AFAB, which for those of you out there, like I'm saying it mostly just so you can understand where I'm starting from. Because in general conversation, AFAB and like AMAB and stuff doesn't really need to come up because it's very rare that people need to know what parts you have.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm saying it just for clarity. I was raised in an extremely conservative, extremely Christian household. Like everyone and every man in my family is an elder in the church. And like I you okay out there, kids?
Falling
The
apart.
dogs just had a big old wrestle. And yeah, so um sorry, one of them hit his head pretty hard on the wall. He's fine.
Just a little brain
So
damage. It's okay.
Just a
yeah,
little bit.
he's hard-headed. He's chill. So like all of the men in my family are elders in the church. In fact, like an elder doesn't mean older. Like I think my little brother who is 20 is also an elder in the church at this point.
It's a title.
Um, yeah, and so all the women in my family are on the altar guild, which is like you clean the church and you decorate the church and like make sure the kids have shit set up. So extremely involved. Um, And so I don't it took me a long time to I realized when I was 18, when I was first starting college, I took LGBT classes because I knew I knew I was not straight. um so I was like, let's learn more about this. So took LGBT classes, and keep in mind this was like 13 years ago. So the idea of like genderqueer and like other non-binary things came up, and I was just like, shit. Okay. Um and so I realized at that point that I was non-binary, and like had like adopted a pagan praxis with my aunt and uncle um when I was like 15 or 16. So like I wasn't Christian either when I realized this. But my aunt and uncle's praxis is very close to like Dianic Wicca. Um and like had to like start there, and actually like because I was 18, I was a few years in, like ditched that praxis, like, and kind of kept with just like animism for years, like while trying to like while working through a lot of issues I had with latent Christianity and stuff like that, and all of that programming that basically the church would do to us. And slowly like I worked with like, you know, Care Nunes came to me when I was about 20, 21, and like I kind of worked with him a little bit then, and then like slowly would like only just occasionally work with other deities. And then when I was like 25, Loki was like, hi, how's it going?
What's up?
And I was
Hey,
like,
how are you?
and I was like, who are you? I was like, you know, basically it was like, I'm Loki. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. So like, yeah, it was just, it's only been in the last few years that I've been okay with working with deities like um consistently and building my own hearth cult, and basically had to like ungender my praxis because, you know, like a lot, like since I was a child everything was gendered, and it was just something that took me a little longer to get over, which is fine. Like everyone goes at their own pace. It's only been within the last couple of years that I've been okay with working with male deities. So yeah, I don't know, that was maybe vague. Do you guys have any questions?
No, I think it's honestly,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's
you explained it
you
pretty
explained
well.
it very well. Um, from my personal experience, is that I don't give a shit. I am
Fair.
very, very comfortable being a woman. I've never really considered anything else because I've never felt restricted by my gender, with the exception of like physical strength. But honestly, I don't think that has anything to do with
Spiritual
or
practice.
spiritual practice, or
Yeah.
even my physical practice. It's just like, you know what, I could be a dude
Yeah.
and still be this like short and weak. It has nothing
Yeah.
to do like that, has more of a physical sense of it all. But growing up, I grew up in a very particularly it was like a Catholic commune, right? So we
Oh,
actually
okay.
did like
Sure.
we were on a farm. And interesting enough, although it was very much so like male based, um, as much as I do not get along with my mother, she is a bull of a woman, and it's her way or the highway. And
Mhm.
at the very least, I was able to take that type of personality and kind of use that to my advantage, because in this whole commune kind of environment, the kids were basically taken care of until they could, you know, play outside, and at that point you took care of yourself. And when it wasn't just so much taking care of yourself, you also had to do farm work.
Oh yeah.
So I never felt like, although it was kind of told to me that I should be demure and in dresses and veil and being submissive, because of the harsh environment that we kind of grew into, because they wanted us to be isolated from society and we had to be self-reliant, that I was taught that self-reliance. So it's interesting that in their attempt to really kind of minimize feminine power and make us demure, they actually put us in a situation where we had to take care of ourselves. So I've never felt like my gender got in the way of anything, if that makes sense. Because
no, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
that makes sense.
so I'm the personality type that I love being a woman. However, I'll do whatever the fuck I want whenever the fuck I want to do it, because
As you should.
I just do what I want when I want.
Fuck yeah.
So I know that there's definitely a social aspect to gender as well, and people don't wanting gender roles kind of enforced on them. I never thought about that for myself anyway. I'm like, for all intents and purposes, I don't really subscribe to a gender binary personally, but I'm very comfortable with being a woman because I don't see that as anything necessarily bad for me.
Yeah.
I'm very comfortable with that,
Fuck yeah.
right? I'm just like, yeah, it literally never became an issue. And I always find it interesting having discussions with non-binary friends, that especially seeing media, and they never felt like they saw people like themselves, or even trans people, when they would see like the male hero or the female hero, they would never feel comfortable with that. I didn't care. I was just like, you know what, that person's cool and I want to be just like that. And I always would just insert myself into that role. Growing up, it didn't really matter if they were male or female. It's just like, all right, they're cool, they're powerful, I'll do it. So I find it's interesting people's kind of like perception of gender, because for me it was never ever a boundary for me.
Fuck yeah.
I like it.
I was just like,
I like it
yeah,
too.
I'm just like straight up. I'm just like, hey, I'm a chick, and if I want to go smell some flowers or ride a motorcycle, I'm going to do both because I just feel like it.
Yeah.
Fuck
Why
yeah.
not?
If I'm going to go fight somebody, I think, again, I would only argue that the body I was born into sucks because I can't, bar fight people, but that's about it.
You can bar fight
Yeah,
people, you just gotta
that's-
learn how.
You just can't win.
That's the problem, is I don't want to do anything unless I win, because God help me if I was born in a assigned male body, because I would be a scrapper.
Oh
That's
my
the
God.
only thing that I quote unquote, and I'm doing this quotation marks because I know that gender's not sex, but like that's the only thing I feel like held back with, is that I'm not as physically strong as I would like to be, but that's about it, and I don't really care otherwise.
That's
Yeah.
fair. I feel
Okay.
like that's how I feel being. So, like, my dad is 6'3" and my mom is 5'11", and they are both short for their family.
Oh my God.
I feel like I got cheated because I'm 5'3".
Oh my
Yeah.
God. I'm 6'1", by the way,
Yeah.
Yeah,
for
Owen
context.
is a giant.
I'm tall. That is hilarious. I can't believe
Yeah.
you're 5'3".
Yeah, I'm also 5'3".
Just like, fuck you
I know.
guys. Well, like, okay, so like if I have 3 biological siblings that I know about, my father never quite knew how to keep his pants on. So I am by far the shortest. Like, my sister is 5'9", and my little brother is 6'5" or so.
Oh my God.
And my older brother is 6'4". So like when I take a picture with them, I look like I'm chipmunking it. Like I maybe come up to my sister's cheekbone. Like you do.
If it makes you feel better, I have all of my very close friends are short, and the guy that I'm currently like would like to be in a relationship in, but incapable of vocalizing that, is
Valid.
5'2".
That's beautiful.
That's cute.
He is a foot shorter than me.
Yeah.
That's adorable.
My last serious relationship, my partner was 6'7".
Oh my God.
How did...
Oh my fucking God.
Don't ask too many questions. It's fine.
Listen, I don't like... I know there's going to be people going to be shocked with this. I don't like tall men. I just don't like tall men.
That's fair.
And with that, I think we will end it right here, because I am now personally offended by this. I have been Owen Guylock. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and running the Soothsayers T Twitter over at soothsayers_T. And you will never see me again on this podcast.
Podcast
ever.
cancelled.
Podcast cancelled.
And I am Kateri. I'm not going to allow this podcast to get canceled just because Owen's having a fit. You can find me at vinoxus.net, usually mostly on Instagram and regretfully Facebook. You also will see me running the Sucerity Instagram, which is Sucer_T.
Hello, I'm Theo. You can follow me at Heathen Wyrdos on Instagram. Yet again, that is Wyrdos, Wyrdos. Twitter, and basically wherever you can listen to a podcast. I think our podcast is there. You can also find me on Discord on the Heathen Wyrdos server. It is called the Web of the Weird. Yet again, WYRD. And yeah, so we're around.
Yeah,
I'm an admin there because I keep an eye on all the witchcraft related stuff to make sure nobody does any fuckery.
I think we're all there.
Yes, we are all there.
Capacity.
Yeah, all of the links to what we have just spoken about will be in the description of these episodes wherever you are listening to them. I default to Spotify, so I presume everyone's listening on Spotify. However, that is definitely not the truth. Oh my god, why is there smoke outside my window?
Because you're dying. Your house is burning down.
Oh no.
Oh no. Okay.
I should go check on that.
Maybe there won't be another podcast.
Please save yourself.
With that being said, hope you all have a great day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.